A new year, a new war? Maybe. I think we need to keep a very close eye on China and Myanmar. Firstly, why should China want Myanmar? Well, currently all it takes to cripple China, starve it into submission, is to blockade a tiny 40-mile wide strait in Southeast Asia. It's called the Malacca Strait, and 60% of all of China's trade, including 70 to 85% of all imported oil, goes through this tiny little choke point. It could be blocked by just a couple of nuclear submarines. This is obviously an intolerable situation for China, and solving it is at the top of their priorities. What to do about it? Well, look at Myanmar. If China could build, say, a gigantic seaport or two on Myanmar's coast, and build a railway line or two, oil and gas pipes and roads leading from the seaports to China, they could entirely bypass the Malacca Strait and eliminate their number one geostrategic weakness. And guess what? That's exactly what they're doing, spending $9 billion USD on a railroad and a few more billion on the pipelines. It was all going so well, but then in February 2021, this grand plan was threatened. It could have easily been completely and utterly unraveled when a military junta toppled Myanmar's government. The West was very fast at condemning this, and I'm sure that China wanted to do the same, but it couldn't, with billions invested into this unbelievably important project, so they had no choice but to support this new government. China officially referred to this event as a mere major cabinet reshuffle. They really had no choice but to ignore the junta's crimes against humanity, their persecution of Muslim minorities, ignore the growing casualties of the civil war. Thousands were killed, 2 million displaced. China had to support this regime, even selling $250 million worth of arms to them. In fact, in April 2022, China's foreign minister implied that China would back Myanmar no matter who ran it. This situation actually reminds me of America's geostrategic necessity to support the Taliban regime in the 1990s. America did not like them, but they simply needed a stable government, any government really, to protect an oil pipeline. But like America, who couldn't ignore the Taliban's atrocities and growing instability forever, this Myanmar junta didn't turn out to be great. They, for example, trafficked tens of thousands of Chinese nationals, imprisoned them in a sort of sweatshop-like facility, and forced them to work as internet scammers, targeting Chinese nationals. Those who refused were tortured and were sometimes even killed. This is obviously unacceptable to China on so many levels, so they asked the junta to stop this, and we're not entirely sure whether the junta tried to stop it, but even if they wanted to, the junta's ineffectual and corrupt army was simply bribed by the scammers and nothing was done. And then in October last year, a democratic and ethnic Chinese group, they started a rebellion in the north of the country near China's border, and they started fighting back against the junta. We're not sure if this was prompted by the Chinese or even funded. Were they proxies? Well, they seem to be working quite independently, so maybe not. And they also have very China non-friendly ideals like democracy, for example. But they did capture the northern regions of Myanmar in December, where the scammers were operating. And after achieving this China-friendly goal, China organized an official ceasefire. The story could have ended here, but only last weekish the ceasefire was broken. China is now evacuating the citizens in the north, and it's becoming very evident that this situation in Myanmar is simply untenable in the long run. Either China can properly back the rebels and expel the junta, or they can just back the junta and squash the rebels. Either way, this is no recipe for peace, so keep an eye on the situation in 2024. Thanks for watching.